whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today. But if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on through our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates. And for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel gboot2786. All right, I'll holla. Peace.
Girl, come on. Gotta dance to the beat, cause on the dance floor is where we'll meet. Show me what you got. Gotta feel the groove.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the.
Right now the party's wasted. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the.
Tell the DJ play the whispers. Rock steady in the mood. Put on earth, wind, and fire. Tonight we're gonna groove. Show me how you do the four corners. Electric slide or two. Hit the bus stop or do the bunny hop, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really grooving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the.
Now 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pandemic, racism, bad policing, and all the bad rhymes. But like Uncle Snoop once said, if you breathe and you achieve. And so if you're ready, I need you all to get on up. Are you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get your butt on the dance floor. 5 and 6 and 7, 8. This jam we appreciate. We're gonna slide and step on the beat. On the dance floor is where we'll be.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up
and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the floor, baby.
Yeah, gotta get on. Come on, baby, gotta get on.
Baby. Feel the groove, get on the floor.
Whoa, what's up, family? Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up, ladies and gentlemen. How are we doing this afternoon? Welcome, welcome, welcome to an exciting edition of Random Topic Thursdays, or I should say Sundays, because it's not Thursday here on G-Boot, channel G-Boot 2786. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings. Before we begin, give me 1 second. Before we begin, first and foremost, we like to pay some dues. That was, of course, get on up. I need you to go to Apple or iTunes and download that song if you have not purchased. Got to get on up, ladies and gentlemen. I need you all. Of course, you saw my link earlier at the bottom of where you can go to purchase. Or go and subscribe to our Patreon as well as to advertise with our channel. Of course, you can purchase the book, The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby, on Amazon Kindle. That's available now. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to donate to our Cash App, PayPal, and Zelle, this is most important. The tickers at the bottom that you see. This is February. It's the last of my birthday month, so I'm going to change that. But to support me, support this channel, as the channel is not monetized, if you can contribute any type of donations to the Cash App, the PayPal, or Zelle, Venmo, that would be much appreciated, ladies and gents. And also, let's see what else we have here. If you want to get some more information, especially about some things that we're doing on this channel, always hit up my email, gavin.grich1@gmail.com, gavin.grich1@gmail.com. Ladies and gentlemen, go to Nawny'sCreoleBlends.com and order you some Creole seasoning. Try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nawny's goes great with every dish. So it's a good Sunday afternoon, and I wanted to get started. Now, I got to go back to work actually this week. Man, I've been off for almost 2 weeks of work, and it just flew by. With the holiday season and stuff, Mardi Gras is over with. So now everything goes back to normal up until, I mean, I don't even count Easter, because Easter really is, if anything we get off, we only get off that Friday, which I'm always usually off on Friday. But, that Friday and that weekend, Easter is always on the weekend. So it doesn't really count so much. Now, if I was a kid in parochial school, those that ever went to parochial school, especially here in Louisiana, we were always off Good Friday, and possibly if we had any other day off, might have been Easter Monday. But Holy Thursday probably would have been a full day. But that Friday, you basically got at least guaranteed to at least have a 3-day weekend. Wish it was like that again with that. But I'm hearing even now, I saw an article, story on, I think it was NBC News, that there's a push now across from different companies where they're actually trying to start and do a 3-day weekend. They think it's much more productive, because you got to think about when you're working, you work Mondays through Fridays, 9 to 5, most of the time. That's the average American. And you're working at least 8-hour days. Some people may work 12-hour days. You come home, of course, that's not counting your personal life, what you're doing with your kids and children, because you got to pick them up from school, deal with them, and that's a few hours out of your day. And then you eat. You may watch maybe like an hour of television, but then you got to go to bed early to get back up and do it all over again. You're essentially a robot. And it is affecting, obviously, when you have a job, it affects your family life, especially if you're not getting enough rest, you're not getting enough relaxation work, because companies will use you up until the point that you are no longer needed. You're not a person, you're an asset. That's how they view you at these workplaces. Now, I have a job I have to do. It's not a Fortune 500 companies, but we all work. We all got to do what we got to do to make money. And especially now, I think after uh, the pandemic, remember, people were working more from home. And so now they're at least, and I've been looking here, I've reported, if you look at Himalayas.app, they reported 110 companies have adopted a 4-day work week in 2022. Now, we don't necessarily have that here in the United States as of yet, although some private companies have done that. Can't think of the internet company that just did it recently. I'm sorry, it escapes my mind. But I think more people are switching that because then it makes work it makes work uh, very much easier. I think people will be more energized to do that if they had more time off, more enthusiastic. It would boost morale. Productivity will probably go up, and I think people are seeing that. Companies are looking at that. So that might be something. That might be something the U.S. will push for. Of course, people after the pandemic, they started just working for themselves. They saw the joy of staying home, being able to homeschool their kids, and stop working all again. And some people stop working altogether. So that is something. That is a fact. The times are changing. So I thought that was just interesting to start. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I called. If you saw the based off the image in the description box that you all saw for today's show, I called this show the most disrespectful month of Black history. Now, there's a reason behind what I'm about to say. If you saw from the images that were in there, I'll explain everything in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Uh, and let me say, first off, since it is the final Sunday of February, the final Sunday of Black History Month, I'm going to start with this. Now, we celebrate Black History Month 365 days, and I've been vocal about that because Black history is history. And if you know, for those who don't know, this gentleman, we're going to be honoring today. I always do a different person with different groups of people with a different occupation each week. You know, I did inventors on here. Now I'm talking about military. I talked about military personnel yesterday. I was talking about Robert Smalls on my Facebook page. Today, we're looking at Benjamin O. Davis Sr. and Benjamin O. Davis Jr. Now, Benjamin O. Davis Sr. was a United States Army general and the first Black American to rise the rank of Brigadier General. He was the father of Benjamin O. Davis Jr., who was an Air Force general, and he was the commander of the Tuskegee Airmen. So this is Benjamin O. Davis Jr., and his father is Benjamin O. Davis Sr., seen here. Now, when we talk about Benjamin O. Davis Sr., the Tuskegee, of course, most people uh, may or may not have heard of him, but he rose to become the first Black American to rise to the rank of Brigadier General, and he was appointed by none other than Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And during World War II, he held troubleshooting staff assignments designed to assist, assist the expanded role of African Americans, although they were in segregated units. Now, this was in World War II. At the same time, his son, Benjamin O. Davis Jr., was the commander of the Tuskegee Airmen. And the Tuskegee Airmen, of course, we know, was a member of the United States Army. Well, they called it the United States Army Air Corps at that time, but they didn't have the United States Air Force until much later. That's when they called it that. But These men, of course, were known for escorting bombers throughout, escorting bombers and fighting off German uh, fighter jets, fighter pilots, I should say, in World War II. And although they were racially segregated, they were the first African American military aviators in the United States Armed Forces. And they are, of course, integral, though, in many of the successful campaigns that the United States Army did in the air as part of bombarding Squadron 617, 618, and 619, as well as I forgot to mention 616. But they all, these men, nevertheless, accomplished so much, even though they were treated with so little respect, and they did a lot. So I'm honoring the military men of the United States Army, the black men who fought in World War II and respectively World War I. So today our Black History Moment is Benjamin O. Davis, Jr. and Sr., both generals respectively of the United States Air Force and Army. So this is your Black History Moment. And I point this out because we talk about history. Black history, while it is American history, and it is celebrated 365 days by myself and others. However, we must never forget the reason why there was a Black History Month was because of this man, Carter G. Woodson. He created what was called Negro History Week, and he launched that back in February of 1926. And this was the precursor of Black History Month. Now, there are some who would say, what is the purpose of having a Black History Month? And I call it the most disrespectful because you will see, based off what based on today's topic, we're going to talk a couple of things. The first person I want to address, ladies and gentlemen, is this guy. Now, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm trying to share it. I call this the most disrespectful month of Black history because we allow to a degree outsiders to continue to disrespect, slander our culture, our heritage. And it's no surprise that these people hate us, that certain people hate the Black community. It's not a surprise that we see that. And it's not a surprise, especially when you see someone who is supposedly a person of color slander Black people. And I'm going to talk about this guy, and I don't even know who the hell he is, Denisha D'Souza, who is a filmmaker and host of a podcast. I don't know what films he's made, but he had the nerve to put his mouth on what's the point of Black History Month. And I'm going to play this for you all, and I want you to hear it. Then I'm going to talk about Moist Adams, creator of that ain't shit cartoon Dilbert. We'll get to that in a minute.
History in Black History Month. Well, I guess we're 2/3 of the way through Black History Month. And it might be interesting to think about why we have Black History Month at all. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad idea per se, but what I'm saying is that it makes sense at a time when the issue of what Blacks did in history was somehow being systematically excluded from the history profession. If all they were teaching you about was history minus Blacks, then you'd argue, wait a minute, if we can't reform the history department and have a more full or inclusive or balanced picture of history, we need to have a separate program called Black History Month. Or even in the university, the analog for this would be Black Studies departments or Black Studies programs. But we all know that today the truth is sort of, well, almost the opposite. You've got so much focus on Black history that very often not just whites, but other immigrant groups, other types of ethnic groups are downplayed or ignored. People learn hardly anything about Hispanics. They learn hardly anything about Asian Americans. They learn hardly anything about American Indians. So if
okay, that's bullshit. That's not true. That's not true. So that's the fault of Black people that America is going dumb, that people are ignorant, that people don't know about quote unquote American Indians, or Hispanic Americans, which is not true. If you notice anything, or even Asian Americans, there's in the month of May, I believe, is AAPI month, which I had never heard of. Even in June, they have Gay Month. Oh, it's Pride Month for LGBTQ. Even though the month of June was Black Music Month and still is Black Music Month in my eyes. There's also Hispanic Heritage Month. There are a bunch of people who have different groups of people who celebrate their history in certain ways. You have the Irish, the Italians who honor their saints of their patron country. They'll do parades, national holidays, a la St. Patrick's Day, although that's not a national holiday. That's more cultural, religious fest. If you want to say quasi, even though St. Patrick was a Catholic saint and is a Catholic saint, you want to say quasi-religious, that's fine. But there are different people who celebrate their own histories, and you're using Black people as a scapegoat for your own shortcomings. Now you look at Denisha D'Souza, and I'm just looking up his information here. This is someone obviously who is I guess you could say would be AAPI, who is an Indian American. So his family, an immigrant, essentially coming in, trying to fix his mouth on Black history and Black people. This is a right winger. All of his movies, everything he's done, has been towards a conservative market. This is also a convicted felon. He pled guilty to being a straw donor and making illegal campaign contributions. And he only got out of jail because he was issued a pardon by Donald Trump, somebody he supported. But let's continue. I'm going to play the whole thing. I want you to hear this.
If you ask people, what do you know about American history? Pretty much all they know is the Civil War, the Civil Rights Movement, and a few signposts along that way, but they don't know anything else. If you were to ask them things like, can you tell us who the key figures were of the modern industrial revolution in America? They'd be like, vacant look. A few years ago, Morgan Freeman, the actor, was being interviewed by Mike Wallace. And Mike Wallace said, I understand you're not too happy with Black History Month. And Morgan Freeman answered it beautifully. And the clip is, by the way, on social media. You can look it up. Morgan Freeman says to...
If you want to name to those key people in the Industrial Revolution, cotton gin, for instance, was Eli Whitney, although that's speculated a Black slave built that. You can also look at, since it is Black History Month, let's talk about Elijah McCoy. The real McCoy came from him, a Black man who created the lubricating cup for train engines to continue, so that way they didn't have to stop to oil their engine, so that they don't have to stop to keep lubricating their engines to keep from moving. He invented a way that it can self-lubricate. That's where the term the real McCoy came from. But you want to fix your mouth on Black history. This is Elijah McCoy, a Canadian American, Mr. D'Souza. This is Elijah McCoy. See, I actually did pay attention in history class. You talk about the Industrial Revolution. This is one man. That's not to mention also all other Black inventors. Garrett E. Morgan, inventor of the traffic light and the gas mask. We want to talk in medicine, we could talk about Dr. Daniel Hill Williams, who did perform the first successful open heart surgery. The pacemaker was created by a Black man. Let's not forget that. Otis Boykin. So this is how you kid them. You hit them with facts. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams and Otis Boykin, who graduated from an HBCU, mind you. You got to hit him. He's also responsible for computing missile guidance. So he helped a lot of things. He was a successful engineer. I could go on. But you got to hit him with facts. Not emotion, ladies and gentlemen. These are facts. It's like Michael Corleone said to Sonny, it's not personal. It's just business. But let's continue.
Mike Wallace. Hey, Mike, you're Jewish. What do you think of the idea of a Jewish History Month? Do you like the idea? And Mike Wallace goes, oh, no. And then Morgan Freeman goes, well, why not? What's wrong with having Jewish History Month? And of course, Mike Wallace, you could tell, kind of belatedly gets the point. He realizes, wait a minute, I want Jewish history to be part of history. The Holocaust is not like a Jewish event. It's an event in the history of the 20th century, and a very important one. So I want it to be taught in the mainstream history class that way.
Okay, but here's the thing, D'Souza. Black history and why it came about when it was Negro History Week by Carter G. Woodson, when he initially started the damn thing. And you even talked about it and hinted at it, but you didn't go in depth. That history was not being taught in schools. That was not being taught to Black children, the importance of Black inventors, Black scholars, the history makers, because at that time, there was such a thing as Jim Crow. There was such a thing as segregation. There was such a thing, and is still such a thing as that, and white supremacy. And yet, when Morgan Freeman made those remarks, you leave out something important, which he was stating that Black history is history, and he did not want his history delegated to the month. So what Morgan Freeman is saying, he's stating that Black history essentially should be learned every day, which it should be. I agree. But that does not mean that there should not be a designated time and place that we can look at this in particular, and especially because other groups do it too. He leaves that part out. He left out the part when said Morgan Freeman said, you want to delegate my history to a month? He said, Black history is American history. It should be taught everywhere. And this is the same Morgan Freeman who said the way to end racism is to stop talking about it, which obviously didn't work for him because he got Me Too'd by some people, by that white woman a few years ago.
But the moment that Mike Wallace admits that, he has to admit that there's something inherently problematic with the idea of giving Black history a month. And so that's, so I think Morgan Freeman gets very much the better of that exchange. But look, we have Black History Month, so it is. I want to talk about a lesson that it will probably never be taught in Black History Month, or never be taught the way I'm going to deliver it.
And this is an Indian talking about Black History Month.
And that is, I want to revisit the famous debate between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois in the early part of the 20th century. So this is a debate that occurred basically 100 years ago between what were then the two greatest Black men living. Not the two greatest Black men of all time, but the two greatest living Black men at that time, a scholar named W.E.B. Du Bois, who was a Northerner. In fact, he was the first Black to get his PhD at Harvard University. He became a prominent professor, and he wrote important books, including The Souls of Black Folk. At the other end was a Southerner, a Southern Black guy, born a slave, Booker T. Washington, grew up to become the head of the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, and became in his own way an extremely prominent figure. In fact, got an honorary degree at Harvard, set up all kinds of philanthropic programs, very often with white philanthropic support in the South. A major figure who wrote a classic work that I highly recommend to you. In fact, I think it's probably the single most important single work by a Black American. It's called Up from Slavery. Even Frederick Douglass's great works, his 3 autobiographies, don't compare, in my view, in terms of force and relevance to Booker T. Washington's Up from Slavery. I read that book, by the way, when I was in India. And it's interesting. I'd never met, obviously, an African American. I knew very little about American history. And yet I found that book deeply interesting and very moving. And
he found the Negro he loved. He found the safe Negro he loved. And I want y'all to look at this. I want y'all to pay attention. These are the people that come over to this country that can get jobs, that are taking the very jobs from us. Look, the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, the Biden administration supports, for immigrants from Asia. They support programs, essentially in the engineering industry that's actually going to benefit them. Remember, Asian Americans are actually going to outnumber Blacks in about 50-something years. So he's getting the benefit. Here's a person who would tell Black people, pull up by your bootstraps, do this, do that. And he got the same benefits coming over here from India. You don't know a damn thing about being Black in this country. And you want to fix your mouth on the fact that what is Black History Month? What's the purpose behind it?
Booker T. Washington became one of my heroes before.
He likes Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, and we know that W.E.B. Du Bois was, from all accounts, from what we've read from declassified documents, he had helped the United States get rid of Marcus Garvey. Now, years later, when Du Bois was in his 80s and 90s, he actually became staunchly more militant, calling out the President of the United States. I mean, he actually died on the March on Washington, the date of the March on Washington. He was living in Ghana. He became fed up with the U.S. I actually got, I think his great-great-granddaughter went to Xavier, if I'm not mistaken, living in New Orleans here. But I'm talking about W.E.B. Du Bois. But yeah, W.E.B. Du Bois, especially in the 1950s when Eisenhower was running for president, he did a whole article about why he wouldn't vote, because he didn't like how the Black man was being treated in this country and how the politicians were ignoring the cause of Black folks in this country. That was not an issue. So he said he wasn't going to vote. But this,
before I knew very much about
this is somebody who knows very little. No, you don't know much about Black people.
The history of Blacks in America. Now, turns out that there was a debate, and sometimes a little acrimonious, more acrimonious from Du Bois's side. He was the guy who opened up this attack on Booker T. Washington. Now, Booker T. Washington, who was very influential at the time, did retaliate by blocking W.E.B. Du Bois from getting certain access to speaking engagements and being invited to certain conferences. So it ended up being a two-way fight between these two prominent Black men. But when we come back in the next segment, I'll tell you what the fight is about, because I think it has a pressing significance even now in the 21st century.
Now, he's not the only fool that wanted to comment on Black people and Black History Month, but Black people in particular. He's the expert now. I want to share with you all. You probably have seen this. I remember this cartoon a little bit, but never really paid attention to it. But the creator of the Dilbert Cartoon has been dropped. The cartoon has been dropped across the nation because Scott Adams, he's the creator of Dilbert. It's a comic strip. It's been around since the late 80s, and it's basically was a satirical content on office humor about a white-collared, micromanaged office, and Dilbert was the engineer in that office. And so Scott Adams decided not to hide his white supremacist thinking and went on Twitter and did a tirade of calling Black people a hate group. Now, of course, I shouldn't just talk about him. Even I saw Ben Stein commenting about why he loved Aunt Jemima. Tariq Nasheed did a video live stream about it. But I want to share with you all what Scott Adams had to say. And you all pay very close attention to what he says in this clip. All right? Because he just lets it all out.
Blacks are not okay with white. So if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group. And I don't want to have anything to do with them.
Now, he's talking about, let me just explain what's going on for those that are confused. Adams is talking about a poll that was done in 2000 by Rasmussen Reports. And it's a polling company, and it's reportedly 53% of Black respondents agreed with the phrase, "It's okay to be white." 26% said they disagreed, and 21% were not sure. And so he's trying to say that he's upset with the 47% who did not agree, although some people said they weren't sure, and said that's a hate group. And so he uses it as a generalization to say he doesn't want anything to do with Black people. Now, all of you who know I've done polls myself. I worked, I was a political science student. I understood how polls work. Basically, and y'all realize this, and you don't even need me to tell you this. When they do these polls, any type of poll, understand that it's not entirely accurate. They don't interview every Black person across the country. They didn't do this. They basically take a group of respondents. Out of that group, a large group sometimes they'll do it in different cities or maybe one city. And they look obviously for people, they look at their occupation, they look at their background, although their information is limited, because I've even been asked about polling stuff. They'll ask you questions, and they take that out of a group, and out of that group, they come up with a median, and then they will calculate that and state that, well, out of this group, they say such and such, 56% say they're against this, or 47% say they're in favor of it. I said 46, well, 44%, 43% say they're in favor of it, 1% will say they're unsure. That you get the idea. Now, Rasmussen Reports is an American polling company founded in 2003. Now, how accurate are the reports? According to, now of course Wikipedia is not the best reliable for sources, but they stated that the accuracy of Rasmussen's polling has varied considerably in recent US presidential elections from 2000 to 2016. Some poll watchers, including Patrick Cato, have lauded Rasmussen Reports, while others, such as Chris Cilicia, have questioned its accuracy. 538 gave the firm an overall rating of B, reporting it had a 1.5 bias in favor of the Republican Party, 1.5 point bias in favor. So, judging by this, it seems it's safe to say that they do lean apparently to the right. And you can read here, if you go on Wikipedia, that there has been some criticism leveled to it as for its accuracy of its polling. But let's get back to Shit Adams, excuse me, and what he had to, I meant to say Dick Adams, and see what he had to say. So he's using this as an excuse for why he wants nothing to do with black people. Now, pay attention to what else he says.
And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get the fuck away. Wherever you have to go, just get away. Because there's no fixing this. This can't be fixed. Right? This can't be fixed. You just have to escape. So that's what I did. I went to a neighborhood where, I have a very low black population. Because unfortunately, there's a high correlation between the density. And this is according to Don Lemon, by the way. So here I'm just quoting Don Lemon when he notes that when he lived in a mostly black neighborhood, there were a bunch of problems that he didn't see in white neighborhoods. So even Don Lemon sees a big difference in your own quality of living based on where you live and who.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Okay, it's not surprising that they use Don Lemonade, just like they use Morgan Freeman. They use these black people. This is why many of us go so hard against Sambos and sellouts and bootlicks who make remarks about and don't stay on code and make remarks to the dominant society because they use them as talking points to say the things they can't say without coming off as racist. Like I told you before, I've been on this channel with y'all. I've explained why they have Charles Barkley or Stephen A. Smith or even in some degree Shannon Sharp say some things because they know to some degree to say things on live television because they know they would not say it without being labeled a race. They can't say it without being labeled racist. And now at this point, not to say that they necessarily needed Don Lemon or Morgan Freeman or whoever, because they would say it anyway. They don't need them, but it's helpful to them and cushions, obviously, to their counterparts and to even to their colleagues, the things that they're saying. And you have this guy who I'm even looking at some of his tweets from 2020. He had a TV show for that horrible cartoon Dilbert that was only on UPN for 2 seasons and blamed it on black people. He blamed the cancellation of his show on UPN on black people. And let's talk about the crime aspect. Now you mentioned Don Lemon, and Don Lemon is one of those people as well who we've called out for bootlicking himself. And Don Lemon is getting his wake-up call now, his karma, because he called out Nikki Haley saying she was past her prime. Don Lemon has had a history, though, of making remarks that hurt black people. When he said black people didn't have a problem with stop and frisk during the mayor's race up in New York. Let's not forget what he did with Bill Cosby, having those women on his channel on CNN, like Barbara Bauman, and not asking tough questions, just giving those women a platform. He was part of that. And as you to say, and of course you're going to use him, but then when you say you notice a difference about crime and about problems in one neighborhood and the other, let me say this: problems exist everywhere because people are human. There's a human element that you obviously don't think black people apply to black people. There's a human element that factors in here. And Black America, when you talk about problems in one community or another, you got to realize something too. All you do realize is there's white people, ladies and gentlemen, people in there's problems everywhere. The thing is that they're able to hide their problems because they have the financial means to do so. Crime is indicative upon the neighborhood you live in. Now, if you live obviously in the inner city in different area in different parts of the United States, I've told y'all before, and you all know this, you're going to find obviously a poor part of town or a rundown part of town where, yes, there will be, uh, uh, a high volume of crime. There's a rumor, obviously, circling around that New Orleans East, where I live in, is the biggest area of, has the biggest crime in the area and the most crime in the area. But that's not even true because most of the crime actually happens down in the inner city. There's more crime and shootings that's taken. There's a lot of crime and shootings and robberies that are taking place on St. Charles Avenue. They just don't talk, and they talk about it. And it's only when it goes to their neighborhoods is when they want solutions to actually do something about it. Not when it's in poor communities, not when it's in black neighborhoods. It's fine when it's here, but when it goes to uptown and affects little Billy and little Kimmy, it becomes an issue.
Who's there? So I think it makes no sense whatsoever as a white citizen of America to try to help black citizens anymore. It doesn't make sense.
You don't need your.
It's no longer a rational impulse, and so I'm gonna back off from being helpful to Black America because it doesn't seem like it pays off. Like I've been doing it all my life, and the only outcome is I get called a racist.
I wonder why. What have you done? What the hell have you done? You've done nothing. You have done nothing. You complained about the failure of your own show on UPN, saying, well, UPN was trying to appeal to black people. They were trying to appeal to a black audience. That's why Dilbert got canceled. Dilbert got canceled because nobody, number one, watches UPN, and number two, it sucked. People probably would rather watch paint dry than to watch your show. You're blaming your failures. What interests me especially, and I'm going to take it that this man is a Republican or conservative. I'm just going to guess, although I've seen he contributed at one point to Hillary Clinton, but then backed off. It's safe to say that he's a Republican. From what I'm looking at on his Wikipedia page, because he's complained about Joe Biden and so forth. I'm just going to say that he is. This is a man, the Republicans will always talk about how people ought to take personal responsibility. You got to be responsible for yourself, personal responsibility. Little government. Yet he's willing to blame his failures, the failure of a TV show. And you can go look at it on his Wikipedia page. I'm reading it about the show Dilbert that was on UPN. Nobody even watched UPN. UPN was just starting up. And while it is true that, this was in 1999, UPN was launched around 95. That's when they started to get their programming like Moesha and Malcolm and Eddie and Sparks. I remember a few other shows, Good News and so forth. And it is true that they appealed to that while their target audience may have been black folks, they also had WWE at one point. They had SmackDown. But I'm looking at this and he's blaming black people for his show. This is what he actually says. He says, I lost my TV show for being white when UPN decided it would focus on an African-American audience. Adams wrote on Twitter in 2020. That was the third job I lost for being white. The other two in corporate America. So the school shootings, yes, exactly. The school shootings that happen in predominantly white schools. That's crime. But this is what he wrote. This is what he's talking about. He's talking about this punk ass TV show. The ratings for the show. So, and this is from almost 30 years ago. You're still hopping on this from 2020. That's black people's fault. Now it goes further. He goes further. Come on, we're not done with him yet. We take
That's the only outcome. It makes no sense to help Black Americans if you're white. It's over. Don't even think it's worth trying. Totally not trying. And there we go. You didn't expect that today, did you? But those who don't want to focus on education, you just need to get away from them. Just get as much distance as you can. That's my recommendation. And I'm also really sick of seeing video after video of Black Americans beating up non-Black citizens. I realize it's anecdotal, and it doesn't give me a full picture of what's happening. But every damn day, I look on social media, and there's some Black person beating the shit out of some white person. I'm kind of over it. I'm over it, right? So I quit.
Nobody will miss you. When did this help start? Did I miss something? What has he, a cartoonist, what has a cartoonist?
So if nearly half of
what exactly have they contributed to Black America? What has he contributed? He didn't contribute a damn thing. And as far as the videos he's talking about, there was a video circulating of a white, it looks like in a school, a white teacher took a Black kid's cell phone and he beat the crap out of her. That kid was arrested and charged with assault. See, here's the problem with people like Scott Adams and others who think Black people are just going around beating the crap out of people. If that does happen, number one, first of all, show me the videos you're talking about, and also show me the outcome of that, because I guarantee you, I'm willing to bet the farm, those people who did those things, those Black people you say that beat up non-Black people, white people, that's what you're trying to say, I can tell you they're not getting off that easy. I know for a fact they didn't walk. I know for a fact when they got arrested, the cops didn't bring them to Burger King like they did the dude that shot up those Black people in that church. That didn't happen. Dylan Roof killed 9 people in Mother Emanuel Church up in North Carolina and walked out in handcuffs, unscathed, and was able to buy Burger King. The police officers that killed, we can look at every police shooting that has happened. The police officers get administrative leave. Whether you're talking about Tamir Rice, whether you're talking about Mike Brown, Alton Sterling, Sean Bell, a bunch of them. They get off with administrative leave, meaning they get paid while they're off until an investigation is done. And 99% of the time or better, they're never charged. But I'm grateful that he's come out of the closet with his robe, with the Grand Wizard robe. You see, they retired the robes, and they think because we don't see them wearing the Ku Klux Klan robes that racism is over with, because we don't see them burning a cross. This is a wake-up call for us, ladies and gentlemen, for many people that are asleep. And I call it the most disrespectful month of Black history, because you just saw these two fools get up here and say what they had to say about Black people in the month of February. It is not a coincidence that they did that. And when you're talking about further disrespect, you have to understand that cooning and buffooning is big business. which leads me to the next thing I wanted to talk about are these guys, BigGroove and YuddyGang TV. There were calls. I think people are pushing to have BigGroove. He was actually known. I wasn't really going to talk about this. I've seen these videos before, but you know, his nickname was the Dancing Gorilla. If I'm not mistaken, that was his username. And this is just smiling and buffoon. I can't play the videos because you play the videos, you're going to get a copyright strike. And there was a push to ban him because of the stuff he's done. Now, every time he and this other guy, YuddyGang, is on Twitter or on TikTok, they're dancing it up. They're dancing a jig. I saw this one TikTok video, the YuddyGang guy, and y'all have seen it. Didn't he look like one of the dudes that beat up Smollett? That fake beat up Juicy Smollett? That's got to be one of them. At any rate, I've seen this thing trending. You know, I've put this up. Everybody saw this.
If y'all don't know about Finder, you need to know. Because when you take a picture of them, I'm letting you know now. Go make your bag.
Now, he's got over 6.1 million followers. That cannot be done, ladies and gentlemen, without getting approval from the mainstream. You can't reach a certain level, have 6.1 million followers. Yes, it's highly unlikely, let's just say, and it be all black people. So I'm willing to bet the farm that all of his subscribers, him and the group, aka Groove and Gorilla, aka BigGroove, have these subscribers, and you see these videos like this. You look at the white girl in the back laughing at it. This is the most pathetic. I said cooning is big business for a reason. And going back to the times of Step and Fetch It. Well, according to what I've heard, Quatman, what's up, Quatman? I apologize, y'all. I've just been going into the topics. I had acknowledged everybody in the chat. What's up, Leon, Gardner, Quatman, One Who Cares? We're missing a couple of people. Danielle is not here. I see Nerds. Valley Girl, shout out to you. A couple of people are not here. Darius always comes out. But I said cooning and buffooning is big business for a reason. Going all the way back even before Step and Fetch It, when they had the minstrel shows. That was always, and even before that, around the time after slavery, when they had the Jim Crow laws, that was named after the Jim Crow minstrel. Now, a lot of people may have seen this. I'm sure, we try to avoid it. There actually were restaurants throughout the United States that made fun of black people. You had, for instance, the Coon Chicken Inn. That was actually a restaurant chain in the 1920s. And they purposefully looked. Those two African booty scratchers that beat up Juicy. Fake beat him up. This was an actual restaurant. Now, the restaurants were disbanded in the 1950s because the word coon was considered a racial slur. And the trademarks of course, were designed to look like a black porter. They even had a restaurant called Sambo's. Now, they actually said that it had nothing to do, they claim it had nothing to do with black people or anything like that. It was, then it's actually was a combination of the name Sam Battistone Sr. and Noel Bonnet in Santa Barbara, California. But obviously, if you call something Sambo is a slur, coming from the book, The Story of Little Black Sambo. And it wasn't until the George Floyd protest, the owner of the restaurant changed the name of the establishment. So it became Chad, after its owner at the time, Chad Stevens, changed it. Now, the restaurant ended up going bankrupt in 1981 anyway. But they still, I think, had locations in the United States, although they've changed the names of it. But oh, what's up, Bookie? But then you had Cardi B defending these two. And Cardi B, let's be real honest. Cardi B, and I'm trying not to get sued by her, but I'll tell the truth, shame the devil. I think she was trying to defend, she said that they were corny and cheesy, but she was trying to defend what they were doing because, you know, I'm gonna just play the video for you. It's about, I think, 48 seconds. And Tariq Nasheed lit into her. But you look at this and you'll see Cardi B said the following.
Two guys that like they go to restaurants and they act like a complete fool. You know, I don't know what's his name. He's really brolic and he be dancing all crazy. And then there's the other one that he just do too much for me. So I've been seeing petitions for people to ban them on social media and everything. And I feel like I'm gonna get dragged because I don't have and I feel like I'm gonna get dragged because I don't have the popular opinion because they have a community supporting them. And every single time that somebody's doing the same thing from the fucking community, y'all want to bring them out, do petitions to get. They are not doing anything wrong, but being cheesy and corny. I'd rather they become rich. Look how Jake Paul became rich. Jake Paul used to do the most corniest content ever. His content was so corny and cringy. I never found it amusing. But guess what? The kids found it amusing.
This is the same. I got to say this. Now, Tariq Nasheed said, we, quote, we have every right to feel a certain way about buffoonish behavior. These folks come from other cultures and participate in stereotypes that were used against FBA. If the justification is they getting money, then go make money off perpetuating stereotypes about your own culture. Yeah. And Cardi B is a walking stereotype. Cardi B is not a black woman. She's from the Dominican Republic, if I'm not mistaken. She passes herself off doing, and is, doing black music. She does hip hop, which was created by Black Americans. And let's be real about hip hop. If we're gonna tell the truth and shame the devil, as we said, hip hop in the last, I want to say 30 years at best, has represented some of the most negative stereotypes about black men and women. The thug life, the talking about drugs, the calling women bitches and hoes, all of this stuff that transpired in the 1990s. I remember as a kid when this stuff was coming up. I remember the movies that they had that I wasn't allowed to watch: Menace to Society, South Central, Jacob's Lyric, all of this stuff that came out in the 90s and during the hip hop era, even to some degree, even though they were comedies, the Friday and House Party films and so forth. there was always and always going to be there was always a stereotypical thing that they had in some of those films that was based off black people. And hip hop, you know, changed in the 90s because even in the 80s, to the point of the 80s when they had Public Enemy, Run DMC, and Public Enemy did Fight the Power. We went from that to Tupac going, you know, Brenda's Got a Baby and Keep Your Head Up. Then we had in the 2000s, you had Back That Thing Up, you had Bling Bling, you had, and I'm not just trying, and I'm not saying that there weren't some things that were good about some of the stuff. But in the 90s, remember we had the East Coast, West Coast beef. 96, Tupac is killed. 97, Biggie is killed. Hip hop used to be something. Even John Singleton did an interview, and I'll never forget. I don't think you can find that anywhere, but I remember being interviewed on BET Tonight with Tavis Smiley, and he asked the question, whatever happened to the 90s, the positive images that we saw? You know, we saw those rappers, I saw a lot of those rappers and comedians in the 90s, you know, when hip hop culture exploded. They would wear, at least to their defense, I used to see on Living Single and Martin the lead characters wearing Grambling University sweatshirts and hoodies, T-shirts from Clark Atlanta, Xavier University, Dillard, Southern. We saw all of that. You can't find it anymore. And this is what, you know, this is what we got today, ladies and gentlemen. Talent is no longer needed to make money. You had to have talent back in the 80s and 90s when we had got stars like Prince, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Charlie Wilson, the Gap Band, James Brown. It used to be about talent. Now it's about being a damn fool, bucking your eyes out over food, over chicken. This Negro eating a whole watermelon like Jaws. And you got Cardi B talking about they just not doing nothing. It's easy, it's corny. Let them be. They're not doing anything wrong because you're not a Black American. And I got to say this, Black people, maybe the lesson you need to send, especially for people like Cardi B and those other rappers like her, is to stop listening to her music. No, I don't support censorship. I don't. But you know what? If you want to disrespect me, disrespect my people, the best thing to do, guys, don't buy their music. Quit supporting them. That's the only way they're gonna get the message. I'll never forget when Lil Wayne, and look, Lil Wayne was from my hometown, but I remember when Lil Wayne did a song and he had lyrics about it, making fun of Emmett Till. Talking about beating the pussy up like Emmett Till. I'll never forget that. And Dr. Boyce Watkins launched a campaign to get that record pulled. And he lost his contract with PepsiCo for that. Because that's not something you play with. That's not something you play with. And this is dangerous when you have, and while these guys may not be foundational Black Americans, they are a representation by mainstream society of Black people, because the biggest images that we see of Black people today, the stereotypes that were from the 1920s and 30s, was that you were nothing but a shuffling, stupid, trifling, lazy, big-eyed Sambo, shucking and jiving. And and I don't know how old they are. They are young men. I don't see them in their 40s or anything like that. They should know, but somebody should pull them to the side. And I know they're making money from it, but this is how you make money now, is being a damn idiot. It's the people that do the challenges. I'm gonna do the alcohol challenge. I'm gonna rubbing alcohol in so I can get likes. They get millions of subscribers. Looking at that, looking at foolishness. This got over 469,000 views. That's talent? This is talent, looking like an idiot. Look how stupid he looks. This fucking. I can't. Shucking and jiving is big business. Going back to Stephen Fetchit, and that wasn't his real name. His real name was Leaking Perry. He actually was a smart man, but those were the roles that Hollywood gave to him. You played a slave, you played a butler, you played a fool. Now you had choice. Now, yes, there were choices they could have made. They could have gone broke. They could, of course, or they could have gone the route of Oscar Micheaux, who was a great black director who made independent films where he didn't have to show black people in stereotypes. He was a multi-millionaire. Stephen Fetchit. And years later, believe it or not, he became close friends with Muhammad Ali and allegedly became a black Muslim. He was a smart man. But he became close friends with Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X. And I get, if it was, I can't say I give them, and I could say, do I give them a pass? Not necessarily. I'm talking about the Stephen Fetchits, the the Rochesters, Mantan Marlon. In that era, I could understand. It's more I understand, so I'm not as harsh with my judgment. But to see these guys in 2023, that you as a black, and they may not be quote unquote foundational black Americans, but they're black in melanin. If they got stopped by the police, they would be classified as black. This is not funny. And you see how many subscribers and followers they have. Most of them, I guarantee you, like I said again, they're white. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you hit that notification bell so that when we're live, you don't miss our live. When we go live, you don't miss our live stream. Donate to the ticker at the bottom. The last thing I want to talk about before I get out of here, I mentioned Lil Wayne. Interestingly, I want to talk about this because Janet Jackson tells CBS and the Grammys to kiss where the sun don't shine. Now, I may have talked about this. I believe I did a week ago because the Grammys came on, and you're right about that, Donald. We are the worst. Kevin Hart's show got canceled. Kevin Hart had a show in Egypt that got canceled because he called the Egyptians black. And the Arabs in that country didn't like it and got him fired. They canceled that show. His comedy tour was canceled for Afrocentric comments. Now you look at ancient Africa. If you look at ancient Egypt, you know that Egypt is on the continent of Africa. We know it's by rule, just like we're talking about these guys who I believe are like the Clive. Yeah, BigGroove looks like he's Nigerian. He's like Emmanuel Ocho. They would be considered a black, if by all accounts, mainstream America would consider them black Americans. They would be considered black, period. And Kevin Hart who is the hottest comedian in this country, multi-millionaire, gets his tour canceled because he called the Egyptians black. We're in trouble. But getting to the topic, I want to get to the topic. Now, Janet Jackson was set to receive an award from the Grammys a couple of weeks ago. They had actually picked her. And what ended up happening, I told y'all about this, is that Lil Wayne ended up getting the award. Dr. Dre's Global Impact Award. Now, this was supposed to go to Janet. And Janet Jackson we are the butt of every we are. But Janet Jackson was supposed to was chosen, I believe, to be the recipient of the Global Impact Award, named after Dr. Dre. And instead, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Did I say named after Dr. Wait, they had it. Okay, so when I'm looking at the article on Atlanta News First, they say it's called the Dr. Dre Global Impact Award. And then when I'm looking at the article here, they say during last week's Grammys, Dr. Dre accepted the Global Impact Award with Missy Elliott, Lil Wayne, a music executive Sylvia Rhone, accepting the award. They were supposed to pass out another award to Janet Jackson. The 56-year-old singer was supposed to receive the award, or slated to receive the award, I should say, though talks ultimately broke down because CBS never apologized for their treatment of her after the unfortunate wardrobe malfunction at Super Bowl 38 in 2004. The Recording Academy first wanted to bestow the honor upon her at a pre-Grammys event with the Black Music Collective, though Jackson couldn't attend due to scheduling conflicts. Dre accepted the award during a nearly 4-hour Grammy ceremony, though the Recording Academy discussed it presenting Jackson with the award during the telecast as well. But because CBS never formally apologized for pulling Jackson's Grammy invite back in 2004, which was broadcast on CBS, Janet said nada. And I want to point out, this is Dr. Dre's, it's named after Dr. Dre's award, named after Dr. Dre. This award is named after her. And after him, I should say. I'm sorry. I'm looking at multiple things, but no, it's named after Dr. Dre. The way it looked like here on the Daily Mail, they didn't indicate that. But if you go to Atlanta News First, it's named after Dr. Dre. Now, Janet, of course, refused to come on CBS because CBS, when it was under the leadership of Les Moonves, remember that article came out that he was doing everything or did everything to have Janet Jackson blacklisted. And I don't think it was a coincidence that this occurred, especially in 2004 and 2000 and in that area, because around 2003, 2004, and 2005, her brother, Michael Jackson, the king of pop, was going through his child molestation trial that was taking place in Santa Monica County. Do I have it right? Is it Santa Monica County? Santa Monica, California, and one of the two. And I don't think it was a coincidence that that they did that to her. They were really attacking the Jackson family, always have been attacking the Jacksons, in part because as a Black family, they accomplished so much that was not expected of them by the mainstream. People hated, white Americans hated when they see a black person that's not only successful, but is wealthy and successful, and they can buy them out, which is what Michael Jackson could do. And Janet Jackson, of course, being the sister, the younger sister of the Jackson Five, who became a figure in her own right, a powerful figure in the music industry and a legend in her own right. Apparently, they didn't like that either, and it was just slim pickings for the white supremacists to go after her. Now, I remember when that Super Bowl fiasco took place, and they really blacklisted Janet. Janet was actually supposed to be in a movie with Lena Horne, playing Lena Horne, I believe, was in talks, and she was pulled from that. Uh, she was never allowed. I never really saw her on network television, with the exception of doing a few appearances. I think she did appear in an interview with David Letterman after the Super Bowl fiasco. And interesting enough, David Letterman called out your Justin Timberlake because Justin Timberlake threw Janet under the bus. He apologized on the Grammy Awards show to smooth things over with his handlers up in the recording industry and on CBS. And so Janet never apologized. I mean, Janet apologized, but it wasn't good enough. And I remember this stuff. And I remember people still coming at her. And it was it was a malfunction. It was an accident. And I mean, everybody is gonna criticize something they don't like about a TV show or about an appearance at the Super Bowl. Even Rihanna's performance at the Super Bowl, I believe, is getting FCC complaints. Someone filed a complaint about it, but I've seen, and I told y'all I fell asleep during her performance. I honestly did when it first started. I didn't stay up for it, but I saw some of it. I've seen worse at a Super Bowl halftime show. That wasn't the worst thing I've seen. There have been plenty worse Super Bowl performances you could say probably warranted FCC complaints, but not that one. And there's always some type of agenda. Like I said, the untalented get awarded while the talented ones are pushed back. There are funny, like I told you, there are comedians who will rip the floor, have you laughing till your stomach hurts from the time they get on stage to the time they get off, and you've never heard of them. You've never seen them in television roles or in movies. Because the industry says, no, it's not them. They pick people, and they pick those who they want to be successful. Corey Holcomb is one of the funniest comedians, one of the funniest dudes walking the earth. But Corey Holcomb will likely never get a mainstream leading man role with Warner Brothers or New Line Cinema or 20th Century, whoever. Universal, whoever, because he doesn't play to an agenda. But I'm glad that Janet Jackson, getting back to Janet Jackson, that she's standing up for herself because, she was mistreated and CBS wouldn't apologize to her. You know what? Forget CBS. This is where you come in, Soul Train. This is where you come in, BET Awards. You should honor the sister. I know she's gotten some awards from BET. I think Black Girls Rock, but this is when, damn a Grammy. It's like what Dwan B talks about. Remember when the Soul Train Awards were popping in the early 90s? You won a Soul Train Award, that meant something. You won a BET Award, that was huge. You were on your way. You had made it. That's how big those music shows and those award shows were in the 90s. But now, I would say around the mid-2000s is when it peaked. So, kudos to Janet. She's got her own dynasty. She has her own legacy. She doesn't need to be validated by Dr. Dre's award, and I find it interesting. They got an award named after Dr. Dre, especially with the Hollywood industry being this Me Too Times Up thing and Dr. Dre's, and I'm not going and beating a dead horse. Everybody has known what Dr. Dre has been accused of with domestic violence. I'm just shocked that nobody has come at Dre, although they have done. I know they've done some Lifetime movies on Michelle. Maybe even had articles that have come out when Straight Outta Compton came out. And honestly, I didn't care for that because the movie was not about Dr. Dre; it was about NWA. But I'm just surprised they haven't done anything on him. Might be coming soon. That's why you got to watch out. Kevin Hart getting his Negro wake up call right now. Everybody gonna get it. But if you love the channel, ladies and gentlemen, drop a Cash App donation, PayPal, Zelle, or Venmo. Support the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Also, please buy our book, The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr. That's available on Kindle right now. It is available on Kindle, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, you can purchase some good old-fashioned Creole seasoning. Try it on chicken, meat, or fish. This goes great with every dish, just in time for barbecue season. Ladies and gentlemen, it's getting warmer. So, yeah, you're going to need it. All right, we're going to get out of here, wrap things up, ladies and gentlemen. Go to join our Patreon. Also go to gavin.grich1@gmail.com, ladies and gentlemen. I got to also say this. We had a very successful, the show on Thursday. I did a rebroadcast because I was doing Love and Laughs at the Verdict here in New Orleans. We had an awesome show. It wasn't packed like I wanted it to be. I was hoping it would be, but I suspected it wouldn't be because it was the week of Mardi Gras. And around this time, everybody is just recovering. So I got to remind myself next time if I schedule a show, I got to make sure it's a few weeks out after Mardi Gras because people will not come out. They didn't spend their money on Mardi Gras throws, bees, barbecue, going out with their children. I'm too tired for a comedy show. But shout out to the people. There were people that came no matter that wanted to do something and came out to Love and Laughs. And we had a great time. I said Santa Monica, so it was Santa Barbara. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Tom Mesereau and I haven't spoken to Tom in like a couple of weeks, so I gotta call him. But yeah, we had a great time. Shout out to all the comedians: Corey Mosley, Brandon Haynes, AJ Bell, Sakina Dawes, Terry Scott. And I know they're probably not watching this just by me shouting them out, but Terry Scott showed up and didn't perform. He wanted to support me, so that's a friend. I'm always gonna be there. So shout out for my friends that came, my family, Tanisha, my lady who came, and shout out to the Verdict, Malika Honore, the owner of the Verdict. It was a great show. And we definitely will do it again. I'm going to be doing some more shows around the city. Oh, the best is yet to come, and we're working on that comedy special. So all of that is coming in. No, they don't own the Jacksons, but Michael owned them. He owned the Beatles. The Beatle. I had heard Michael walked up to Paul McCartney before he bought the Beatles and said, Paul, if you had to buy the Beatles, and I'm not saying that I would, how much would you sell them for? Oh, Michael, about 6 million. Then 40, 50 million. About that much. Wow, that's a lot of money. Maybe I'll buy your albums. Oh, come on, Michael. Don't be serious. Yes, of course, Paul. Jokes. I heard, Eddie Griffin tells a story. Eddie Griffin said Paul found out, Michael got his people on the phone. Paul didn't find out till the next day Michael bought the Beatles. And so $100 bills, $100 bills. Well, you said 60. I gave you 47. It was a little low, but you still made a lot of money. The girl is mine. Your publishing's mine. So kiss my black behind. You're making more than me. I want an even share, but I'll make it endlessly, and we won't even care. So come. Get your money, Michael. That's right, baby. Get him. Get him. Get him. Shit. And he married Elvis's daughter on top of that. So he owned the Beatles and Elvis's music. And he married the daughter. Oh, they want them dead. That's why I think they killed Mike. That's what my personal belief. I can't say who exactly, but I believe forces were out to kill him and did succeed. That's just my personal opinion. And even the family, I've talked with Taj and I've had him on the show. He's hinted at that and didn't go in detail, but I will say that. I believe that. And his cousin Ziggy has said the same thing. He's been on television. He says my uncle was murdered. Latoya has said that. Joe Jackson has said that. A bunch of people have said that. Because just the way you have a doctor laying up. I'm just thinking about this. You have a physician. Who has a physician, a stay-at-home physician living with them? Now, of course, all things aside, whether I can afford a doctor or not, of course, I can't have a living doctor with me. I can't afford that. But even so, even as a celebrity, why would you want a living doctor if you're healthy and fit? That didn't make sense. What's up, Darius? And reportedly, the doctor is giving CPR on the bed when Michael ODs, and he's flatlining and he's giving him CPR on the bed, which everybody knows you don't give CPR on a bed. You lay him on the floor on a hard surface and you conduct CPR. And now they're saying that the catalog, the estate is worth $900 million and they want to sell, I think, Mike's catalog. Because Mike had two publishing companies. He had Sony ATV, which he co-owned with Sony, but he also had MeJack, which was his initials named after him. Yeah, when you think, and think about it too. Another reason why I think he's killed is that the first artist, you think about this, when Tupac died, the first artist that the industry used to do hologram performances was Tupac. Then Michael died and they did that hologram performance, which was scary. That freaked me out. Remember they did that, I think it was at the American Music Awards. They did a hologram of Michael Jackson moonwalking and shit. That sitting in the throne. They even did a virtual performance with Timberlake and Prince at the Super Bowl a couple years ago. And Prince was vocal that he didn't want any type of virtual performances when he died with other people. He even said, if God had meant for me and Beethoven to play together, then it would have been meant to me. Otherwise, I don't want to do it. Whitney Houston dying right on the evening of the Grammys. And it just odd. The timing of it just is too much of a coincidence to me. You can't prove that, no. I mean, well, we can prove Michael was murdered because Conrad Murray was convicted of manslaughter. But It's just the whole thing of not a family doesn't own the rights to their music anymore. They're gonna get a little change, but that's generational wealth. When you're talking about owning a music publishing company, when you're in music, you're in the entertainment industry. I'll tell you something else in tying that in generational wealth. Watch the TV series 1923. It's a spinoff prequel to Yellowstone, which features Kevin Costner. And in the last episode, I want to give it away. I'll just tell you this: if you do watch Yellowstone 1923 and you watched episode 8, there's a scene where they talk about generational wealth, and you need to hear it. Timothy Dalton's character plays a mining magnate. He's a tycoon that wants the Duttons' land. And he specifically talks with one character who's feuding with the Duttons about generational wealth. Y'all take a look at that if you can. Y'all take a look at that episode. If you follow it, it's episode 8. And watch what he says about generational wealth. He laid it out. Why it's important. Why you got to pass things down to children and great-grandchildren. But look, I'm going to get on up out of here. Darius, you're late. But I'm glad you showed up. We were looking for you. Yeah, I've heard the same thing about James Brown, too. I'm trying to get James Brown's son on a TV show. I'm going to reach out to him again. But y'all hit that like, share, and subscribe button. I'm going to go see if I can work out before the gym closes. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, we've gotten on down. Now it's time to get on up. So do us a favor. Get on up on iTunes now, ladies and gentlemen. We love y'all. We thank you for your support. And I'm out. I will be back Tuesday. Getting ready for the work weekend. But, hey, it's going to be a great one. No, I didn't say they were selling his masters. I said they were selling his ownership of the no, what I saw was the estate was selling his publishing. Because they already bought the catalog. The Sony ATV catalog was already sold a couple of years ago. What they're talking about is they're trying to sell 50% of the music catalog for a reported $900 million. That would be the MyJack catalog. Because Mike owned his publishing. The publishing of his catalog was owned outright in full. Now you think about this with these sales, Sony ATV, guys, is now the largest music publishing company in the world. There's Warner Brothers, there's Cobalt, I believe there's also Universal, but Sony ATV stands atop. I'm looking at the article right here from KTLA, by the way. That's a lot of cheese. That's enough cheese to fill the world. And I'm a cracker. Put it on me, baby. Woo. $900 million. All right, y'all. We're going to get up out of here, man. It's time to get on up. Thank y'all, ladies and gentlemen. Please donate to the Cash App, PayPal, or Zelle if you love this channel. It's the whole publishing. It's not just the album. It's the whole publishing. Every song he's written, they're talking about selling. It's all priceless. It's like selling ancient Egypt's treasures. It's going to be here for till the day we all die, until the end of the world. But y'all, it's time to get on up. So let me get out of here. All right. You guys been great. You've been safe. Wonderful. I love you. Peace out.
Girl, come on. Dance to the beat, cause on the dance floor is where we'll be. Show me what you got. Gotta feel the groove.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the.
Right now the party's wasted. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do, cause the beat is really moving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body, cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the.
Tell the DJ play the whispers. Rock steady in the mood. Put on earth, wind, and fire. Tonight we're gonna groove. Show me how you do the four corners. Electric slide or two. Hit the bus stop, I'll do the bunny hop, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do, cause the beat is really grooving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body, cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the.
Now 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pandemic, racism, bad policing, and all the bad rhymes. But like Uncle Snoop once said, if you breathe and you achieve. And so if you're ready, I need you all to get on up. Are you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get your butt on the dance floor. 5 and 6 and 7, 8. This jam we appreciate. We're gonna slide and step on the beat. On the dance floor is where we'll be.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up
And move your body, cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the.
Baby, yeah, gotta get on up. Come on, baby, gotta get on up. Baby,
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up.